Greetings, friends. This is John Queen with the Queen Team, Chartered Financial Analyst, Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst, and Realtor with the Queen Team at Coldwell Banker in Denver, Colorado. And today I'd like to talk to you about my 6 personal tips for home sellers to help you maximize your chance of success in achieving your goals in this market. But before I do, remember, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and join our channel for all types of informative real estate content across investing, transactions, market analysis, and related topics so that you can get the most out of your home buying and selling experience and get the benefit of our expertise. So let's get into it. The first tip I have for folks who are interested to sell their home is before you even consider listing it, first, look at your property again for the first time. Walk around your property, take a good look, and think about what could potentially turn off buyers or trigger inspectors' curiosity and inspection reports. What are things about your property, positive as well as negative, that people who will be walking through your home shortly will take notice of? And more importantly, what people who make an offer on your home and then undergo inspection with an inspector, what that may turn up. Now, it's not always the case, and I don't recommend doing a thorough inspection on your property unless there are significant issues that you may be aware of prior to listing it. Often it's the case that you just will want to take a nice unvarnished look at everything and understand, how does my home really stack up? Are there small improvements that I can make that will be cost effective prior to talking to a realtor and listing the house that will get me more value at sale or attract me more buyers? A realtor can also help with this. So this is a service that I provide, of course, when people are thinking of listing their homes. We walk through and I'll give my opinion on things that may or may not need to be spiffed up slightly. And more often than not, there really is nothing much you need to do, because you want to avoid a situation where you're taking on costly repairs and then passing them on to the buyer. The buyer is not going to reward you for those repairs because they're going to, in some cases, assume that those repairs should be standard with a house in that neighborhood. For instance, if you need a new roof, they just assume that there's a working roof in the neighborhood, and they're not necessarily going to add additional value to their purchase price just because your roof now works when it didn't before. So it's a process where you need to think about the positives and negatives, but you want to go through that process prior to listing your home so you can have a realistic expectation about what the correct listing price for your home will be, which goes to my second tip. The second tip that I have for home sellers is to price your home correctly. And there's many elements to this, which we'll unpack here. Partially, it can be tied to step 1, where you are walking through your home and spotting anything that may increase or detract from your home value versus that of any of your neighbors that have recently sold in the prior months. The second is to do a deep, in-depth market analysis of what home prices really have been selling for and break them down in price per finished square foot and other metrics, so you can understand really how your home should be priced and how it will be viewed realistically by buyers who are walking through, seeing your house when it's listed, and then comparing them to other houses in that price point. What you ideally want to strike is a balance where you are definitely not negotiating against yourself on price, so you want to offer a price that you can accept at the end of the day, but you don't necessarily want to shoot for the stars and the moon on your listing price. The reason for that is you want to create some room for potentially attracting multiple offers on your home, create a bit of a bidding war, and that's how you can benefit and get the maximum success from selling your property. You only get to sell it one time. So there's a little bit of a nuance here on how to price it. Partially is you want to price it correctly compared to comparable properties in your neighborhood. So I look at price per finished square foot there and other metrics. You want to balance it for any special outstanding features you may have. You want to be realistic about any problems with the property that you may have that neighbors don't have. And just understand, put yourself in the buyer's shoes. When buyers are walking through and viewing your property, chances are they're looking at multiple properties that day or that week. And they're all at similar price points because that's the price point the buyer is looking at. And the buyer will simply say, what is the best value that I feel among all these properties that I've looked at similar price points? So if you've priced your home correctly, The ideal result will be the buyer will find that your home offers the most value, and therefore they will make an offer. And if they understand that there are multiple offers on the property, they'll be motivated to beat those offers, hopefully. So leave some room for appetite in your listing price. Don't negotiate against yourself, but leave some room. Don't shoot for the stars, so that you're throwing as wide a net as possible and you're creating interest, not only to view your property, but you're creating interest after people have viewed your property with all the important things that are necessary then to receive an offer that will put money in your bank account. The third tip I have for home sellers is throw a wide net in how you advertise the property. It should start with the MLS listing platform. That's the platform that realtors use for not only advertising properties, but also, and this is important, for their e-contracts. Everything now is done by phone or computer. A lot of that happens through, in Colorado, an e-contract system called CTME. And in CTME, it is much easier for realtors to write offer on your property if there's an MLS number associated with that property, because it will then pull that information from the MLS number and put it into their contract, saving them time and effort. Much easier than if you're not listed on the MLS and they have to figure out all the nuances to put into your property legal description, etc. by themselves. You don't want to create any work for the buy side. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to write offers. By the same token, it's not necessary to only list on the MLS. You want to throw a wide net. So a lot of buyers these days, they're on Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, similar websites. So you want to throw as wide a net as possible so you're catching as many eyes as possible, not just that of the realtor and any search algorithms they may have created for their clients on the MLS system, but also for the clients themselves in their off working hours or personal time searches of properties. A lot of these sites like Zillow will pop up and give you prompts about properties you may be interested in. That could, at the end of the day, be the differentiator to get someone in to view your home, and that person may be the person who would bid the most on your property. So you want to throw as wide a net as possible, but don't skip the MLS process, because if you skip the MLS process, in my opinion, and you don't list on the MLS, you're making the contract side more complicated. And if there's one thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to create barriers and work for people that are trying to figure out whether they want to pay you a lot of money. My fourth key to selling your home is to make your home as widely available for showing as possible. And the key words there are as possible. Sometimes you'll have already vacated the property, so it's available pretty much any working hour, from 9 to 9 p.m., those types of range. Other times you're living in the home, so there are realistically times when you're not able to show the property. My advice is, at least for the first week of the property showing, try to make it as showable as possible. Try to make yourself as scarce as possible to allow as many people as possible to come through, see your property. If you've priced it correctly and you've marketed it well according to the prior steps that we've talked about, this will hopefully be the final piece of the puzzle to get multiple offers in on your property, and offers at the price point that you're hoping for. If you limit the amount of showing, it's kind of like a restaurant that's only open for 2 hours a day. It can be successful and it can be financially viable, but it's not going to be as successful as the restaurant that's open longer than 2 hours a day. It's the same for showings. If you're visible for showings 8 or 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day, and it's convenient times for people to see it, chances are you're putting yourself in the best seat to have success with multiple offers, as opposed to if you're only available to show during certain hours a day, you're really then forcing buyers to change their schedules to see your property. And let's face it, there's a lot of property being listed out there, not as much as in typical years, but enough to fill a buyer's schedule. And so the chances of them canceling personal arrangements to view your property is not something that you want to necessarily rely on. It's much easier to make it as easy as possible for them to see your property on their time, and just all they need to be thinking about is how much money they're going to offer on your home. Now, my fifth tip for sellers is related to prior points, and that is to make sure when your showing is available that it is clean and smells nice. It is the best representation of itself. If you have a pet, you want to make sure that there's no pet accidents in your home. If you are a person who participates in Colorado's state herb, that is fine, but you may want to consider the smell of the apartment as well as tobacco. The smell of the apartment when people come through, because certain people will be turned off by that, and you are then limiting your net. So during the hours of showing availability, make sure that your home is clean and is presentable and smells and looks its best. That will maximize the chance of leaving a positive impression with people that are visiting your property, and all of that translates into offers that you receive. And at the end of the day, that's what you're focused on. So for that week or more that your property is available, throwing a wide net, making it as available as possible, make sure that during those times that it is as presentable as possible. And that is the simplest way to get good results from people who view your property. My final tip, my sixth tip for sellers to maximize their chance of success is when you receive your purchase offers in Colorado, what the buy side is sending you is actually their filled-in contract to buy your home, where all you have to do, if you agree, is sign it. And if you disagree, you would send back basically a proposal to amend the contract, which would then, terminate that first contract. It's no longer valid, and you're then proposing something to them as a counter proposal, which would replace that contract. But if you are not going to counter propose because you don't want to invalidate that purchase offer, it's good enough for you, make sure that you understand with your realtor or otherwise, what are the terms and conditions in that offer? What are the breach terms for both sides? What are each side's rights and obligations? What are the key dates and deadlines? Is there appraisal gap language? What does it mean? It's one thing to say, okay, there's a $15,000 appraisal gap, but exactly how does that work when the appraisal comes in low, if that happens? So then you're not just scratching your head trying to figure it out on the fly after you've already accepted the offer. Also, any other additional provisions? Have you asked for a post-occupancy agreement? Is that post-occupancy agreement terms understood? Are there other factors about the offer that you need to be aware of? So you want to understand your purchase contract, and you want to understand the terms and conditions in that contract so that as you are closing, and whether it's 30 days or some other period, you are not then either under negotiating or over negotiating. Most of the negotiation is done already at the purchase offer, but believe me, it's very common during the inspection phase where you're going to get feedback and there could be a concession asked at the inspection objection period. There also could be some sort of appraisal language where an appraisal comes in not at value, that you may have a conversation there. These are all things that you need to understand exactly what Colorado law says, what your contract says, and understand your position so you don't accidentally either get taken advantage of by the buy side or overplay your hand and lose a very good offer, go back in the market, and you may not find that offer again. So understanding your contract empowers you as the seller to make the best decisions based on your opinion. And again, if you have priced your property correctly, if you've been realistic about the state of the property, done your inspection yourself, a lot of this process from the inspection objection to other potential objections that the buyer may raise, whether it's over HOA, due diligence, or appraisal, these things will be less of a surprise to you, and you'll be able to react to them in a strategic rather than a reactive, knee-jerk way. And in any case, you can't avoid these things from happening, so you just put yourself in the best position to navigate those waters successfully. So there you have it. Those are my 6 tips to sellers for selling homes in Colorado. Probably applies to many states as well, but Colorado is the state that I work in. Always happy to talk to sellers about additional strategy tips and free market analysis on your home. You can always contact us at queenteam@coloradohomes.com or via our website, www.queenestates.com. Take care and good luck out there. Happy selling.